What's up, guys? Today on Robbie's Reviews, I am reviewing a very special car. It is the 2020 Mercedes-AMG GT R Roadster. This is one of 750 units produced for the world, and I have been given the opportunity today by HGreg LUX in Pompano Beach, Florida. Huge thank you to them and my friend Max for setting it up. This is a very, very special car, like I said. Only 750 for the world, and as you know, it is the Roadster version of the hardcore AMG GT R Coupe. So needless to say, this is going to be pretty cool. So without further ado, let's go check it out. All right, so being a Roadster, the first thing we want to do is drop the top. So we have our foot on the brake here. We have our convertible top controls up here. Push up, windows go down. The soft top retracts. Less than 10 seconds for the entire operation. You get a little chime letting you know that the convertible top is now down. And as you can see, quite a different view from the AMG GT R Coupe. Now we have a open top experience with that amazing large carbon fiber rear fixed wing. And of course that 4-liter bi-turbo V8 up front. Actually, that was with the exhaust valves closed. Let's put it into Sport Plus. Alright, so now we're going to step outside and take a look at the exterior. Alright guys, here she is, the 2020 Mercedes-AMG GT R Roadster. And just like I said before, this is one of 750 units produced for the world. It is an extremely limited car, only made for 2020. And as you can see, it is pretty much just the AMG GT R Coupe without a roof. Now, to my knowledge, the AMG GT R Roadster is the only one of its kind. It is the only rear-wheel drive, front mid-engine, soft top convertible with a large rear fixed wing. You could call it a hardcore convertible, hardcore roadster, but like I was saying, BMW, Audi, Ferrari, Lamborghini, they don't make a car that is similar to this in any way. And honestly, just from the few minutes it took to drive over to this spot to review the car, I'm completely in love with it. The way that it drives, it's really contradicting in a lot of ways. It is a hardcore car, yet it actually is heavier than the Coupe, because they took off the roof and they had to add some more chassis rigidity and all that, so the car didn't get that floppy effect. It has things like cooled seats, blind spot monitoring, electrically adjusted steering wheel, front and rear cameras, all the safety assistance systems. So really is a bag of contradictions, and you would think, why does a car this hardcore have this many luxury features and safety features? Well, that's just what Mercedes-Benz likes to do. They take cars that would normally be very intimidating to drive, very unapproachable, and they give people a way to kind of get acquainted with them and not be so intimidated to drive them. I actually drove the AMG GT R Coupe back when it first came out in 2018, and it was kind of a trial by fire. It was in the Georgia mountains. The owner at the time, he was very distracted, and he just told me to navigate to the hotel we were staying at for the AMG Driving Academy. So I'm somewhere very unfamiliar in a car that I've never driven before, with a lot of horsepower, 585 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque from that handcrafted dry sump 4-liter bi-turbo V8. And I will say that a lot of cars that have rear-wheel steering like this car does, it's always kind of like going on in the background. You don't really notice what it's doing. However, this car has the most lively rear end I've ever experienced in any car. Whenever you're turning the front end, the rear end is following it, and you can kind of feel that in your back in the seat. And it's really quite an experience. It could trip up a lot of people, especially when driving this car on a racetrack for the first time or driving it spiritedly on the street. However, I've had a little bit of experience with this car, and I've since actually driven an AMG GTC, which also has the same rear-wheel steering system. Maybe not as aggressive, but it has a similar system. And like I said, there are only 750 of these in the world. This is actually the second one that I've seen. Second one I've gotten to sit in, first one I've gotten to drive. But honestly, if you've driven an AMG GT R Coupe, you'll be right at home with this car. Things that this does have over the AMG GT R Coupe, at least the pre-facelift, are the digital screen, which we'll get a look at in a little bit, the wider center screen over here, the infotainment, updated headlights and taillights, new aero system under the bumper, and we'll get a look at that in a little bit. Horsepower and torque is unchanged. I really wouldn't want any more power in this car. You do have an adjustable, it's fixed, but it is adjustable, the rear carbon fiber wing. And like I was saying, the Tail lights have been updated, not heavily, it's just the lenses have been darkened, a few little things have been added. Still has that same amazing diffuser in the back, full carbon of course. This car has exterior carbon 1 and 2 packages. So you have the main exhaust exit there, and once again thank you to HGreg LUX, Pompano Beach, Florida. And you have these two little baby exhaust exits here. Not sure if you guys can see that. It's pretty cool. They come right out of there, and you have some protective carbon or some kind of composite like sheeting or cover, so the heat from coming out of the exhaust on the sides doesn't melt the carbon fiber diffuser. Of course, you have the AMG badging there with the GTR badging, and this vehicle is actually finished in the lovely Designo Diamond White Metallic Tri-Coat. It's a great color that Mercedes-Benz and Mercedes-AMG have been using for years. It's a very, very metallic-y white, heavy on the metal flake. I'm not sure how well it's coming out in the camera. It's a very bright day out today. However, you can see there's tons of metal flake. And starting with the front here, you guys have that classic, iconic Pan Americana grille with the very aggressive vertical slats going across with the Mercedes 3-pointed star that houses the Distronic Plus sensors. And coming down here, you see that front camera there. That's part of the surround view camera system. Although it's really just a front and rear camera system. This doesn't have cameras in the mirrors that make a full 360-degree panoramic view. However, the front camera does help for things like pulling into parking spots or entering gas stations or driveways and stuff like that. You do have, as part of the Carbon 1 and Carbon 2 package, very nice front carbon splitter here, right under the bumper. And you do have an active front spoiler, chin spoiler system that you can actually press a button or hold it down and it'll come out, or you can retract it with the press of a button. And here you have the openings for all your oil coolers, radiators and stuff like that. Just a lot of cuts and openings in this car. It's a very wide, very aerodynamically sound car. It has been designed in the wind tunnel. Every cut and line in this car is functional. And of course here you have one of my favorite features of the AMG GTR, which is kind of these gills or fins here, and they're of course full carbon fiber as part of the carbon fiber exterior package. And speaking of the carbon fiber package, you actually have the carbon fiber mirror caps here, as well as the side skirts. They are full carbon fiber and look very, very nice. And continuing down the side here, of course it is the same basic silhouette and shape of the AMG GTR. Very, very wide front and back. This car takes up really a full lane on any road that it's on. It's something that, just like the SLS AMG, you're sitting basically on the rear axle almost, and you have a lot of car in front of you. And when I was saying earlier how the AMG GT R Roadster is front mid-engine, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second, essentially it means the engine is sitting somewhere under these vents here in the hood, and is really almost tucked up under the firewall there. So it is a mid-engine car. Mid-engine cars don't necessarily have to have the engine sitting behind the passenger bulkhead, behind the front seats or rear seats if there are any. Really just means if it's sitting in between the front and rear axles, anywhere at that point, it's considered a mid-engine car. Obviously, if it's in front of the steering wheel, it is a front mid-engine car, and if it's behind the steering wheel, it is a rear mid-engine car. So continuing on down the side here, of course you have those amazing AMG forged wheels. They're 20-inch in the rear, and they are 19 in front, and they are wrapped in, let me see here, the Pilot Sport Cup 2 rubber. Very, very sticky when you get them hot. Just great all-around tires. And of course you have the AMG carbon ceramic braking system there, and the nice copper orange colored calipers. A lot of colorful metal flake on the wheels. They look really great. And of course you have the AMG rear wheel steering system, which, like I was saying earlier, is definitely the most active RWS system I've ever experienced on any car. Coming around to the back again, you have the updated taillights. You have the GTR badging there, the Mercedes star, that carbon fiber fixed wing. Of course, that amazing titanium quad exhaust has 2 exits here and 1 on each side. And of course, as part of the carbon fiber 1 and 2 exterior package, you have that massive carbon fiber rear diffuser. You have the third brake light situated in the trunk there. Now, speaking of the trunk, there's really only one way that I notice you can open it from the outside, and that is with the key fob here. You can see there it has the AMG Falterbach logo on the back of it. So you really just hold it there, trunk pops open. And it's really not the largest trunk in the world. You have enough room for the bag that comes with the car cover here. You have your headphones, stuff like that. My camera bag, tripod, and there's a little storage net. And it's really not like other convertible Mercedes where there's a partition that you can actually raise and lower depending on the position of the roof. You do have a subwoofer back here that is part of the Burmester high-end 3D surround sound system. But to close the trunk, you just have a little handle here, pull down, just like that. And I'm going to come over to the back of the seats real quick here, because you can see through this little vent here with the bar, you have a couple little fans that are in the back of the seat, and that is for the air scarf. So you've seen this in other convertible Mercedes that I've reviewed before. However, in this car it's a little bit different, being the performance or sport bucket seats. They still have the air scarf, and you have the heating and cooling functions, so you have all the perforation. So with the air scarf, if it's a cold night and you have the top down, you can put that on and warm air will actually come out of this vent here onto your neck and make you feel more comfortable. And of course you have things like lane keep assist, automatic wipers, automatic headlights, and all that. Speaking of the headlights, they just like the taillights have been slightly facelifted. The general housing is really the same. However, you do have things like the AMG on the side here. You don't have any crazy LED projectors or active swiveling components, but you do have these kind of reflectors here. They're LED. You have a really cool daytime running light. We'll turn those on in a second so you can see them. Real quick, I'm going to open up the hood so you guys can see that handcrafted bi-turbo V8. So you have the hood pull all the way under here. And pretty cool is you have the carbon fiber door sills right here. Really, really nice touch. No soft close on these cars. I guess they're still too hardcore for that, even though they have just about every other luxury amenity. So the hood popped, got the handle here. And really all that's under here you can see similar to when I reviewed the AMG GTS and GT63 and all those cars, where most of those cars share the same power plant, S63, E63S, C63. The AMG GT cars are actually dry sump, so it allows the engine to sit much lower. However, where it looks like the engine would be, right here under the engine cover, with the plaque of the individual who built it, that's Mercedes-AMG's one-man, one-engine policy. The engine itself is actually sitting way far back behind all the plumbing and intakes and stuff. You can see the turbos here, and the frontmost part of the engine is lying pretty far behind the front axle. And the rear of the engine is almost under the firewall. So that's what allows this car to have such an amazing balance of weight, everything, and just the way it puts its power down and the way you can turn in. It's really unlike any other car I've ever driven. Of course, you can see it says AMG up there. This is a very, very long hood. And like I was saying, when you're sitting behind the wheel, you're here and you've got another 6 or 7 feet of car in front of you. Something that you do have to get used to, but it's really not that bad once you do. And of course, up here in the hood, you have that active shutter or intake that'll open or close depending on the cooling needs of the engine at the time. And it'll get fed all the way back to those slots there, go right into the engine, cool the hot V or the turbos that sit inside the valley. So right now we're going to close it up. And we are going to turn on the headlights and taillights. You guys can check them out. Step aside. Have the ignition here. You can see it glows red. It's really cool. One press, do 2 for ignition. Headlight controls over here. And we'll put the hazard lights on as well. Hazard light button is over here. Alright, so first thing you notice is you have the indicators that are inside the carbon fiber mirrors here. Nice and bright. Moving along down the side, you have those redesigned LED headlights. And of course the amazing looking LED switchbacks. As you can see, the DRL shows on every other cycle. So you have the white that goes right to the amber for the turn signal. And of course the LED headlights themselves and the high beams are below. Of course you have things like cornering lights and all that. They're not as advanced as the headlights in say an E63S or an S63 with the multi-beam headlights. However, they do get the job done. Coming around back, you have the updated LED taillights. Really not much of an update back here, however, it really is just a darkened housing to make it look more aggressive. This car looks so incredibly wide, especially with these full-length taillights. The way they kind of wrap around onto the rear quarter panel here. And from every angle, they really just look spectacular. They're not OLED like the facelifted S63 Cabriolet or the new upcoming W223 S-Class. However, I'm sure if they continue this AMG GT series within the next year or two, it will get a complete update. And what's pretty cool is the reverse lights are actually up in the trunk here. So for some reason on the coupe, they were down kind of in this vent area here, and they've actually been moved up to the kind of bottom of the wing here, the platform. You can see that there, and the third brake light is up inside the wing, and then you have the I think one of them is the fog light, rear fog light, and then the other one is the reverse light, or this is the reverse light here. But nonetheless, it's a cool lighting setup there. All right, guys, well, it is very hot out right now, so we're gonna hop into the GTR Roadster, put the top up, get the AC running, check out all the cool features and technology inside the interior. Stepping inside the GTR Roadster. Wow, that black interior really heated up out here in the South Florida sun. Close the door, start it up, ignition button here. So just like we did before, foot on the brake, got the convertible top controls up here, pull down. Windows are one-touch power. Get those air-conditioned seats going. And of course you have the air scarf function right here. We don't want that on right now. But if it was a cold night outside and we had the top down, we could put the air scarf on and it would have warm air come out of that vent there. No need for that right now. So sitting here inside the 2020 Mercedes-AMG GT R Roadster, a lot has changed for 2020 and a lot is still the same. Now the things that are the same, starting with this bank of air vents here, and you have the interior carbon fiber package, which is right here above the air vents, going down over the AMG GT R Roadster, one of 750 badge there. And you have the carbon fiber continuing over the cup holder lid here, down over the touchpad here, and over near the shifter. And then it's actually surrounded by this really nice piano black trim. And this does have a full Napa leather interior. And then you have the diamond quilted stitching on the door panels here. And on the seats, these are the special Designo sport bucket seats with the gloss black trim, AMG badging there. And you have the perforations for the heating and cooling functions. And of course you have the Falterbach logo that is embossed on the armrest. And you have a pretty decent center console here. You have these tins, which I'm not really sure what's in them. I guess we can find out right now. These are actually the backs of the keys. So the other backs of the key would have the Falterbach logo there. It's pretty cool. Put that back. Continuing on with the things that are the same, you have this kind of central design here that's meant to mimic the V8 engine. But instead of the round buttons from the pre-facelift cars, we now have these screens that were inherited from the AMG GT 4-door. So we have our mode selector here. Right now we're in comfort. If we click down and go into sport, sport plus, race, and of course you heard the engine RPM kind of raised there with the exhaust valves opening. Going all the way back up, we have individual and this new wet weather mode, snow mode, or whatever. We have our drive modes here by simply pressing the screen, going to manual shifting or automatic. We have our suspension modes, comfort, sport, sport plus, traction off, one press for the sport handling mode. Hold it for a couple seconds, about 3 seconds, it turns off completely. And it reflects, actually, another thing I want to point out is on previous AMG GTRs, even though I haven't reviewed a pre-facelift one, there used to be a kind of like a knob here, a yellow knob that would show a traction control symbol, and you'd be able to turn it, and there'd be a bunch of LED indicators showing you which part of the 9-stage traction control you had on. So instead, you actually have that here. See if I can, there we go. So it is 9 stages of traction control. You have completely off, 8, 7, 6, of course, so on and so forth, until it's completely on. I press it, it goes back to your driving modes here. And this is actually an option. These kind of shortcut buttons or screens were introduced a couple years ago. So of course we have comfort, sport, sport plus. Same as over here, and I know it's kind of redundant. And getting back into the contradictions in this car, even though this is an option, if you do have these little screens or shortcuts on the steering wheel, why would you need to go here? I mean, you can program any one of these you want. This is always going to be the driving modes and the traction control. However, this one being traction control, you can actually press the screen itself and it'll change, so we have exhaust on or off or closed or open. And then a new option here, being that the pre-facelift car did not have a front camera, you can opt to just press it and the front camera comes up, which is pretty cool. And then speaking of the front camera, let's see here, you can actually go to the wide angle view, front view. There's no top down 360 panoramic view because there are no cameras inside the mirrors. And actually there you have the blind spot sensor there, blind spot monitor. The sensor itself is somewhere in the side of the car, in the taillight in the corner. Go back over to the front camera. You have your rear camera, your rear wide angle. And like I was saying earlier, with the weird placement of the front camera, you can kind of see the grille there, that it's kind of like set inside the grille. But the way they program the lens, it can still have a perfect front view, especially if we go to the wide angle. You can really see it there. It's pretty funny. And you just hit the back arrow here to go back. And continuing on with the little shortcut button here, if you don't want the camera to be there, you can just press that. Traction control off, suspension mode, drive mode, auto start stop off, your AMG Dynamics. That's another new one I haven't seen. And actually, when I reviewed the AMG GT 4-door, I did not see this option on there. So if we click that, it takes us straight to AMG Dynamic Select, which is really cool. And let's see, press it again, wait for it to focus. You have this another new feature. There are these active front spoilers or chin spoilers. So if you press it, it'll say extending spoilers, press and hold switch extended. You can press it again, retracting spoilers. That's a pretty cool feature, handy to have. And of course, if you want to exit out of this, you press that. And another change for the facelift of the AMG GT R Coupe and Roadster, you have this amazing fully Alcantara or AMG dynamic wrapped flat bottom steering wheel. You have the AMG logo there at the bottom, the horn cover in the middle with the large Mercedes logo. You have all the piano black trim here, so you have your adaptive cruise control options to set your distance and all that. There's a little actual display that shows it, pretty cool. You have your touchpads, which this side on this steering wheel, the left one controls the center digital screen here, which is another major change for the facelift of the AMG GT series as a whole. So if you swipe the touchpad to the right, you have controls for over here. You have your G meter, boost gauge, all that, AMG, tire pressure, fuel, navigation, and back to the left you have that. And of course, if you go back on the, or home on the steering wheel, you can actually go to, well, media, radio, navigation, and all that. But you have designs, so that lets you change the gauge cluster layout. And you have the classic dual gauge here, dual gauge layout. You have your speed and then your RPM. Pretty cool. And you have your classic. And then actually if you go to the right, you can choose to change whatever you want on the right side. However, my personal favorite is the Super Sport layout. So you have the big central tachometer with the digital speedo in the center. Gotta love those amazing, crisp, high-definition graphics. And of course, in the bottom, you have your AMG logo, your fuel gauge, things like your seatbelt, lane keep assist, what safety systems are on, park, reverse, neutral, drive, what mode you're in. It reflects basically everywhere. When you're changing the driving mode in this car, it reflects in 4 different places. So here on the center stack, on the steering wheel, in the actual center screen, and over here on the infotainment display. So there's no shortage of information here. And like I was saying, aside from the new steering wheel, the center screen, you have things like the Burmester high-end 3D sound system, which gives you little tweeters there, door speakers. Of course, you saw the subwoofer in the trunk. Really is an amazing sound system for such a small, compact car. Now, something else that has been carried over from the AMG GT 4-door here in the center stack, not only this big touchpad, but also the shifter here, the electronic shifter. On pre-facelift or past models of the AMG GT series, it was kind of back here. And owners, especially if they were taller, bigger people, they would almost have to jam their elbow into the bulkhead here just to put it into drive or reverse. But instead, you really just rest it. It's really just a hand rest here. There's a nice material on it so it doesn't wear. You put it into drive or up for reverse, or half a click for neutral. Of course, you have your camera there. So reverse, you have your reverse camera. And then drive takes you to your front camera. Of course, you have things like your active guidance lines. It's really nice. And then just P for park. Now, something cool is this touchpad here. I'm not going to go full in depth into the infotainment display because similar to other cars with the command system or even the MBUX system, it's really, really similar. So with the touchpad, you have things like home. And it'll take you to dynamic select, vehicle, track pace. You have all your different things, navigation. You can go back here. Assistance systems. This vehicle has automatic parking, active brake assist, attention assist, lane keeping assist, blind spot assist. Really a lot of safety and technology for such a hardcore track focused machine. Let's see, there's kind of a new bank of buttons over here that is different from the coupe. You have your heated seats, your cooled or ventilated seats, air scarf. Not really sure what that is there. I think that's your camera system. Yeah. Oh yeah. So that brings up your camera system. You have your hazard lights, parking sensors off, and then passenger controls for heating, ventilating, and air scarf. You have all your normal AC controls down here. You have your engine start stop button, which glows red. That is something new that I have not seen before. I'm not sure if it's in the facelifted AMG GT R Coupe. I'm almost positive it's in the AMG GT R Pro. There is no GT R Pro Roadster. So at the moment, this is the most hardcore convertible you can buy. And let's see what else we've got. So usually in most Mercedes-Benz models, you have the seat controls on the door. However, I guess they figured that would have been too cumbersome and bulky. They actually put them down on the side of the seat, like every other car basically. It's really not that bad. I can actually reach the memory settings and everything in the lumbar. So it's not nice, especially once you get your memory setting going. Of course, you have all your headlight controls and what have you down there. Electronic parking brake, trunk opener. Air conditioning is great in this car. Obviously, you have only 2 zones. You only have a 1 passenger seat there. Really just the quality, the level of quality and craftsmanship in this car. Everywhere you look, you have either carbon fiber, metal, aluminum, and no shortage of leather. Actually, a pretty good sized glove box there. Really just everywhere you look, you have the AMG Dynamica. Of course, there is no real headliner. It is a triple layer acoustic soft top. It really feels just as quiet in here as the coupe. You do have a little bit of AMG Dynamica up here. You have the visors right here, some nice LED lights there. It's a nice little touch. Really just the overall seating position in this car, as you can see, I mean, looking out there, you have a lot of hood in front of you. The engine is basically sitting right by my feet. It's kind of like under the firewall, almost into the dashboard. You don't have heads-up displays in these cars, although you really don't need them. The windshield's very, very thin. Everything you need to see is in this driver display area here. All the information you ever need. I like how you have the nice physical bezel, and the digital screen actually fits perfectly in that bezel, so it's not just like a big rectangle that's in a lot of other Mercedes models and other cars in general. I really do love the infotainment here. It's everything very intuitive, very easy to use. You have your Mercedes-Me, your Connect, phone, all that, radio, navigation. You have a nice haptic feedback and also a little noise that it makes. So you get the point. Very intuitive, very easy to use infotainment system. Everything's laid out very well in this car. Easy to get to, easy to reach. As far as how to use everything, it's pretty self-explanatory once you're in, once you have at least a couple hours to play with the car. Like once again with these shortcut buttons, I chose to have the exhaust here so I can open and close it at will. And then for here, honestly so many different options now. There was a lot of options before, and they've added even more. Honestly, we'll just choose to have the front camera on, and of course here you have your driving mode. And pressing it, actually, if you're in any mode, pressing it takes you to individual mode, which you can actually configure here. So you can have your drive mode, transmission be manual shifting, suspension in Sport Plus, your exhaust closed or open, and all that. So pretty cool. Right now we're going to leave it in comfort. Alright guys, so now we're going to take the AMG GT R Roadster out on the road and see what it's like to drive. Alright guys, right now we're driving the 2020 Mercedes-AMG GT R Roadster. We've got the top down, of course. Got a pretty decent day here in South Florida. It's a little hot out, but we do have the cooled seats on. Right now we're having a comfort mode. The suspension and comfort in the GT R Roadster is still pretty stiff by most car standards. Hope you guys can hear me okay. The wind noise is really not that bad with the windows up. Of course you have things like landscapers and stuff. So right now we're going to make a U-turn. You can feel that very lively rear-wheel steering doing its thing. I'm going to put it down into Sport Plus. The exhaust valves are opening. Give a little gas here. I've got to say, in Sport Plus, the suspension is extremely stiff, but that's what you'd expect from a hardcore roadster like this. And I'm on the same road that I test every car I review, and there's plenty of undulations in the road, potholes and stuff like that, and dips. However, this car soaks everything up beautifully. Just like the first time I drove the AMG GT R Coupe in 2018 when it first came out. I mean, the responsiveness is unreal. It's definitely one of the most lively cars I've ever driven. The rear end is quite literally alive thanks to that rear wheel steering. There's really not much this car can't do. You do get the feeling that you're a very capable driver when you're in this car. It makes you feel kind of better than everybody else, especially if you're on a racetrack. But right now, just cruising around town right now. It's comfortable. I have the AC on, I have my cooled seats on. I mean, it's got the hold function. If I press down on the brake pedal, the car will hold itself in place. Have my blind spot monitoring. Really, the driving position is great. I can see perfectly over the hood. There's kind of like an air channel going through the hood, so I do know what the front end is doing. I can see the front of the car. I kind of know where it ends and where the front wheels are. I'm gonna do another U-turn right now. And that rear wheel steering is really second to none. I've driven lots of cars with rear wheel steering, and this is by far the most advanced system I've experienced. I'm sure many of you have already seen the Rebel steering system in the new S-Class, and it can go up to 10 degrees. It's pretty crazy, but as far as a performance driving perspective goes, this is definitely one of the best systems on the market. I think it's better than what Ferrari is using, better than what Porsche is doing in the 911, and also better than what Lamborghini is doing. I mean, this car handles sweeper turns like nothing else. Not even really going that fast right now, just pretty much doing the speed limit. The suspension is in Sport Plus, and it is brutal. It is so harsh, but at the same time, it soaks up everything in the road. You won't get out of this car needing a chiropractor or spine surgery. However, it is definitely noticeably harsh. I can't think of any other real hardcore cars that I've driven. Haven't driven the 488 Pista yet. I have ridden in a Huracan Performante, and while that was very unforgiving, the seats were horrible. These seats are actually pretty supportive, very comfortable. The bolstering is nice. It doesn't really dig into your sides. The thigh support is great. And honestly, I really am loving the way this car drives. I mean, right now I have it in Sport Plus. There's no real reason to put it into race mode on the street. We might for a second or two, but really can't complain about the way it's driving right now, to be honest. I mean, like, the way that this car makes U-turns really is unbelievable. And then you plant the gas. So when you're in these sweeper turns, you do have to pay attention to what the rear end is doing. Like I was saying, it is very lively. Wherever you point the front end, the rear end is going to follow it, and you do notice it pretty much instantly. I mean, that 7-speed dual clutch transmission in this car is unreal. Shifts are very snappy, instantaneous. There's no herky-jerky shifts or anything like that. The transmission will never forget what gear it's in. It'll always know what mode it's in, so if you're in comfort, it'll get to the highest available gear with as little RPM as possible. Downshifts are amazing, as you can hear with that exhaust. I mean, that titanium exhaust is really out of this world. Even though there are a lot of new regulations right now in Europe as far as emissions and cars' exhaust systems, AMG has once again found a way to have this car sound amazing. I'm sure it meets all the standards. Remember, what they get in Europe, we have to get over here in the US. Even though we can technically in some states modify our exhaust, take out cats, put in sports mufflers, stuff like that, our high flow cats. The titanium exhaust in this car is really amazing. I wouldn't change anything about this car. Wouldn't change the engine software, intakes, everything is perfectly engineered for this car, and it is ready for basically any situation, any scenario you can throw at it. I can honestly just drive it all day with the top down. It is very hot out, but like I said, AC is ice cold. I got the cooled seats on. I got the wind going through my hair. It's a very lovely feeling. The sound you get from that exhaust is great. You can hear the induction noises, really everything. The electrically assisted power steering in this car is really second to none. Like I said, the suspension, while it is harsh and can be unforgiving at times, it does do a good job at keeping the car in check. There is honestly zero body roll in this car. And I've never really said that about any other car I've driven. You always sense a little bit of body roll, even in the most track-focused modes. However, with the AMG GT R Coupe and also this Roadster, I am not really detecting any body roll. And I know I'm not on a racetrack right now. I'm in some business park. I'm on some back streets right now in a corporate park. But honestly, right now, what I'm experiencing is a fantastic open-top, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive car that is honestly one of a kind, only 750 in the world. And once again, I can't thank HGreg LUX and Pompano Beach enough for allowing me to take this car out today. I'm having an amazing time with it. And right now, it honestly is one of the greatest driving experiences I've ever experienced in my life. All right, guys, well, that should do it for this review of the 2020 Mercedes-AMG GT R Roadster. Once again, I would just like to thank Max from HGreg LUX for allowing me to take this car out today to see what it's like to drive, and to show you guys all of its amazing features and technology. See you next time.